All right, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to our continuing Know Your Rights workshop series. My name is Janelle White, and I am with the Temp Worker Union Alliance Project. I am joined by my colleagues and friends, Bobby Frierson from Warehouse Workers for Justice and attorney Ada Sandoval from the Raise the Floor Alliance legal team. So we're going to start by going around and introducing ourselves and telling you guys a little bit about our organizations and the things that we are trying to provide as resources to workers in the Chicagoland area, especially during these uncertain times during this pandemic as it continues to surge on. Bobby, would you like to go ahead and start?
Sure. Hey, everyone, how's it going? My name is Bobby Frierson. I'm an organizer with the Warehouse Workers for Justice. I'll give you a little background about WWJ. WWJ is a worker center fighting for good living wage jobs in Illinois' warehouse and transportation industry. We organize workers, educate workers on their rights, help workers enforce their rights, and fight for public and private policies that promote better conditions for workers. In addition, we officially launched our worker protection program, where we're currently helping with tenant legal rights, rental assistance, expungement and sealing of criminal backgrounds, driver's license reinstatement, job discrimination, wage theft, workplace issues, and COVID-19 vaccines. If you're having any issues in the workplace or any issues with any of the things I mentioned, please feel free to reach out. I also want to talk about some upcoming events and upcoming vaccine events that'll be going on in the state of Illinois. Thursday and Friday, January 27th and 28th, there'll be a vaccine event at Calumet City Public Library. It'll be going from 9:30 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. The address is 660 South Manistee Avenue. There's also an event in Fort Heights. It'll be at the Fort Heights School District 169, Wednesday, February 2nd, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. That'll be held in the Evers Gymnasium. Also, at SHP Management Court, there'll be an event going on February 10th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. The address is 31 Olympic Village, and that is in Chicago Heights. Also, there are a few locations that provide vaccines every day. The times are Tuesday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. These locations are, one is in Forest Park at the former Hobo, which is located at 7630 West Roosevelt. Another location is in Matteson, Illinois. It's the former Target, which is located at 4647 Promenade Way. And another one is in Des Plaines, Illinois, 1155 East Oakland Street. That is the address for upcoming events. I'd like to pass it over to Ada.
Hold on one second. Thank you so much, Bobby, for sharing that. So while you were sharing those upcoming events and dates, I actually had the Cook County Department of Public Health website pulled up. So I know we kind of ran through those relatively quickly. Those of you who are viewing or catching the replay, if you wanted to revisit that and find out where there's a vaccine event coming up near you, feel free to visit the Cook County Public Health website, and you can visit them at cookcountypublichealth.org/calendar. So CCDPH is actually one of our partners for both TWUAP, the Temp Worker Union Alliance Project, as well as WWJ Warehouse Workers for Justice. We've been working with them and partnered with them throughout this pandemic, passing out PPE, personal protective equipment to workers, as well as volunteering to man these regularly scheduled vaccine events. So not only is it just if you're interested in getting vaccinated against COVID-19, they also provide the flu vaccine. And if you're fully vaccinated but aren't up to date on your booster, you can get your booster shot at one of these events as well. So once again, that website is cookcountypublichealth.org. We encourage everyone to be safe and do their due diligence and make sure that you're up to date with being vaccinated against COVID-19. Ada, I'll go ahead and pass it to you to tell our viewers a little bit more about Raise the Floor Alliance.
Yeah, thanks, Janelle and Bobby. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ada Sandoval, and I am a staff attorney at Raise the Floor Alliance. And Raise the Floor Alliance is a coalition of worker centers in the Chicagoland area, so like WWJ. And we support the worker centers in the Chicagoland area either by like providing education, like know your rights training, or we also do litigate cases for some of the workers, some of the members of the worker centers. And yeah, so we support the worker centers and we try and help with getting workers protections and enforcing those protections when laws are being violated. Thanks.
Thank you, Ada. And for those of you watching, you'll notice that I put up the Raise the Floor Alliance website. So if you'd like more information about Raise the Floor, you can visit their website at raisetheflooralliance.org. And also, while we're here, I didn't get a chance to put up the Warehouse Worker for Justice website. If you are interested in learning more information about them, their website is www.4j.org. And now, last but not least, I'm going to take a minute to talk to you guys about my organization, which is the Temp Worker Union Alliance Project, also known as TWUAP. So TWUAP exists to advocate for temp workers. As many of you may or may not know, temp workers often do the same work as direct hires for less pay. They face a lot of workplace injustices, and TWUAP just wants to serve as a liaison and an advocate, again, for temp workers. So if there are any temp workers watching this, if you're catching the replay or watching it live, feel free to leave a comment if you have questions for Attorney Ada, as she's here with us this evening. And if you'd like to find out more about our resources and PPE giveaways and things of that nature and upcoming events, I encourage you to visit our website, which is TWUAP.org. Be sure and sign up to join our mailing list, and we can make sure to get any upcoming events out to you as they are scheduled. So thank you so much, those of you who have joined us. Again, if you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them. We'll make sure that Attorney Ada sees them. Also, please do like and share. We've been continuously doing these events in an effort to get information out to people and kind of eliminate the middleman. If you're having a workplace issue or workplace struggle and you don't know where to turn and you don't know what type of lawyer you might need, well, we have one right here live tonight that hopefully will be able to answer your questions. And possibly either TWUAP or WWJ would be able to refer you if there's actually a case for you. So again, like, comment, and share. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Attorney Ada.
All right, so I'm going to start my screen share, share my PowerPoint. All right. So again, my name is Ada Sandoval, and I'm a staff attorney at Raise the Floor Alliance. So we're going to cover workplace rights and COVID. So this is going to be just general information. It's not going to be legal advice. Like Janelle said, if you have any questions, go ahead and send them in, and they'll read them out throughout the presentation. Just know that there might be some questions if they're too specific. It'd be better to just talk one-on-one with an attorney or also with a workplace organizer. And but if you have questions, just go ahead and send them to the chat, because I'll try and answer as best as I can. And if it is too specific, then we'll get to that. So the first thing that we want to cover is the right to organize, which is protected under Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act. So right now, in the time of COVID and just in general, organizing is usually the best way to get more protections for the workers in the workplace. And workers who organize are protected if they engage in concerted activity for the purposes of mutual aid and protection. So that can include 2 or more workers taking some action at work, like presenting a petition with the demands of the workers, or one worker calling on other workers to act. So the call to action. And you'd have to make sure that you are engaging in the concerted activity in a way that it's going to be protected by the law. So that's just mainly, it has to involve workers discussing workplace matters. So it's not, it has to be specific to like the workplace. And also, it does apply to most employees of private employers, including like temp workers, but there are some exceptions with supervisors, management, domestic workers, and independent contractors. And with supervisors and management, sometimes it's just kind of like an empty title that the employer will give out to some people. So there are some instances, like an exception to the exception, where sometimes the supervisors or management can still be a part of concerted activity and be protected. But for like general information, they're usually under an exception. So what happens if you engage in concerted activity and the worker and the employer does take some action against you? So then a worker would be able to file a charge against the employer, and they have to file their charge with their respective National Labor Relations Board director. And there is a time limit that is 6 months of the violation, within the violation. So we just have to make sure that like if you did engage in concerted activity, if you were part of like signing a petition or talking to the management on behalf of other workers regarding these changes that you wanted to see in the workplace, and then the employer fired you or like cut your hours or did anything kind of like against you in retaliation, then you would be able to file, but just make sure you do it within that 6 month violation because there is that time limit. And the charge can be filed against either the party that interferes with the workers' Section 7 rights. So that can be the agency, the client, or both the client and the agency. So some examples of protected concerted activity are discussions of workplace conditions and circulating petitions, discussing joining a union, striking, and you don't have to be a part of the union to have these protections. Like this is workers collaborating, like getting together, again, concerted activity, like working more than one worker, talking to management. So that's sometimes that's something that people are confused about, that they have to be a part of a union to have like these protections, but no, like you, as long as it's a group of workers discussing workplace matters, that would fall under the protections of the Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act. And yeah, so if workers do end up like striking, I do like to note that employers, in some situations, the employers can permanently replace striking workers if their demands are, if their demands are limited to economic demands. So if workers are striking just because they want a raise, and that's the only reason, the employer legally can replace these workers. So I just like to let the risks be known. So in these situations, it's pretty easy to make sure to try and avoid being permanently replaced by making sure that when you do make demands to the employer, it's not just about a raise. It includes like all these other issues with the employment conditions, and that would be and that would make it harder for them to be able to permanently replace the striking workers. All right, so I just want to know if there's any questions that are coming through regarding specifically the right to organize, because I'll be moving on to the next section.
Sure. Actually, we had a question, but it was about tenants' rights. So I just want to remind our viewers, first of all, thank you again for tuning in and joining us this evening. This is a Know Your Rights workshop about the right to organize in the workplace and protecting your health and safety rights during the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you have questions pertaining to that, please feel free to leave them in the comment section on the Facebook Live. But if you do have questions about other areas that we are not covering tonight, I do encourage you to visit the Warehouse Workers for Justice Facebook page. If you look under past events or videos, I know that we have had events dedicated to tenants' rights in the past, and I'm pretty sure we'll have more in the future. So it's not that we don't want to answer your question. We're just not dealing with that subject matter tonight. So do please like, comment, and share, and feel free to leave any questions that you may have about your right to organize in the workplace or health and safety in the workplace during COVID-19.
Just one additional note, with some of the laws that are in place, it's really limited as to how much protections that they explicitly state. So a lot of the times the best way to address conditions at work, it is to engage in this concerted activity and organize the workers, because there is that power in numbers, especially when there isn't like an explicit law that would cover the conditions that you're trying to bring to the attention of the employer. So what with safety and health, there are laws specifically like the Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA. So this federal law is enforced by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and that is the agency that is responsible for ensuring safe conditions in the workplace. So if there's anything going on in your workplace that seems dangerous, that it seems like they should be, like there's some safety regulations that they're not following, you can go ahead and report it to OSHA, and then they'll start like an investigation regarding that like complaint. And there are anti-retaliation provisions, again, to protect workers from if they invoke those rights. They want the laws are in place to like also make sure they are protected from retaliation. So here there is a time limit though. So if something happens and the worker does report an issue to OSHA and the employer tries to retaliate against the worker has 30 days from whenever like the employer either fires them or does anything against them to file with OSHA.
Can I interject here for a second? So I know that there was unfortunately a bit of a lag with how OSHA was able to handle the monumental volume of health and safety violation complaints. Have you seen them maybe catching up and maybe that lag being reduced a little bit?
Yeah, I am not sure because OSHA is not kind of like a first come first serve type of like process. They do like kind of consider what they see as more more severe violations, and those will like go up to the top of their list. So it just depends on like type of violation that you're reporting, because they are still relatively quick with some complaints versus others.
Okay, and not to put you on the spot, because I know we didn't really talk about this beforehand, but I think a lot of workers need to know that they do have rights if they're injured on the job. And it's kind of a murky water situation here. If you catch COVID at your place of employment, can that be a workers' comp, or is it a little bit more tricky than a straightforward injury? Like, for example, slamming your hand in something. Could you maybe take a minute to talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, so it is a trickier situation. So I actually need to update myself on what's going on with workers' comp claims regarding COVID, because I know it was like complaints were being processed kind of as workers' comps claims. But then there's also situations where it's like people got sick at work, and then they went home, and then their family wasn't like also got sick. And in that case, like it's not workers' comp for the family, you know, so it's just different situations. And I do have to like update myself on that information because the laws, they keep changing, and I'm not sure if workers' comp is still covering that right now.
Yeah, well, thank you for attempting to answer the question. And for those of you that don't know, Attorney Ada will be back. So we'll table that, for the next installment, where she's going to be our guest, and hopefully we'll be able to get you guys some answers in that regard, because it is getting really, really challenging to navigate. And unfortunately, the workers are the ones who fall in the gap in these scenarios, in these situations. So we just want to make sure that you guys are getting accurate information to the best of our capabilities.
Definitely. Yeah, because I don't have a slide on workers' comp. So that will be an update that I'll have to do if it is that workers' comp is still covering COVID claims. All right. So the next topic that I want to touch on is the Chicago COVID Anti-Retaliation Ordinance. And what this does is it prohibits employers from retaliating against employees for obeying an order issued by like the mayor, the governor, the Chicago Department of Public Health, a healthcare provider, like a doctor, when it has to do with COVID, or when it has to do with like somebody taking time off because they are taking care of somebody who has been subjected to having to stay at home because of any order. So because you have gotten COVID, or someone in your family has gotten COVID and you have to take care of them, you're required to stay home to minimize the transmission of COVID-19. You're obeying the quarantine order that are in place. And then any retaliation by the employer, you would be protected. So this is again specific to Chicago. There really isn't a similar law in place for Illinois. I haven't heard of anything like in the works, but hopefully that's not in the works yet. Hopefully there's something that we'll see coming down the line. But right now, if you're working in Chicago, so if the client company is in Chicago, that's where the work is that you're doing, then you should be covered by this anti-retaliation ordinance. So we've been hearing instances already of workers who have been getting fired because they had to quarantine, or because there's complications with COVID and there were complications with COVID, so they had to quarantine for like longer, or they were out of work for longer, and the employers did fire them. So with these, we would want to continue with a complaint with the Chicago Office of Labor Standards. They're the ones who enforce the Chicago COVID Anti-Retaliation Ordinance. And I have that information here, so that the number for the Chicago Office of Labor Standards is 312-744-2211. And then civil actions are also available, so like cases can be taken to court as well.
Thank you so much for providing that information, because I mentioned before we went live that we actually had a worker contact us today regarding his former coworker who unfortunately contracted COVID-19, and the company that they work for had different policies based on whether or not employees were vaccinated versus unvaccinated. So if I'm not mistaken, I think vaccinated employees had to quarantine for 5 days, and unvaccinated employees had to quarantine for 10 days. And so this employee followed, the policy that was in place to the letter, and unfortunately they were still terminated. Whether or not that's wrongfully, that's debatable, and I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say. But yeah, these scenarios are happening more and more, and we definitely want to make sure that people know what exactly their rights are in the workplace. And if there is a violation, we encourage workers to use this information to file a complaint at the number that's listed on the slide here. Bobby, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I did want to add something. And sometimes some of the best defenses against stuff like this is against retaliation of the company. It's just like organizing with your coworkers, coming together as one, because the more power you actually have in the workplace, like the better your conditions are. So just to avoid like a lot of the stuff, like down the line stuff, like to have those conversations with your coworkers, be on one accord, you know what I mean? Come together and organize. That way, when the company retaliates against one of your coworkers, you guys can do something about it immediately.
Yes, thanks, Bobby. All right, and so, like I said, unfortunately, the anti-retaliation ordinance is limited to Chicago, but one other law that is in place, and it's not just Chicago, it's also other Cook County towns, is the earned sick leave law, and what it does is employees, workers, you are able to accumulate sick leave throughout the time that you're working for your employer. So what the ordinances do is give employees the right to earn sick pay, and it accrues at the rate of 1 hour of paid sick leave for every 40 hours that the worker has worked. So, and that there's a limit of 40 hours in a year, but it can also be carried over to the next year. Up to 20 hours of unused paid sick leave can kind of roll over to the next year. There is also kind of a limit where the worker has had to have, the employer can limit it and only allow the employees to take the paid sick leave after 6 months of work. So it's not like they have access to it right away. But if you've been working at the same place for more than 6 months and you've already been earning this hour of paid sick leave for every 40 hours, that means you are legally able to take off paid sick leave. Like if you have to take off time from work, then you have to, they have to pay you for that. It is limited to the counties that have passed the ordinance. And some of those towns, it is listed here at the bottom of the slide. So I won't read all of them, but some of them include like Barrington Hills, Berwyn, Cicero, Deerfield, Northbrook, Oak Park. But you also should make sure to like call up the town clerk and make sure that it is still, they still have that ordinance, because some of the towns can opt out. And that's what's happened. Like not all of the Illinois towns or Cook County towns are actually a part of it, but a lot of them are. So you might have these rights and not know it. And if you do take your sick leave, like if you have sick leave and you take it, the employer is not permitted to ask for a doctor's note. So like if they ask for a doctor's note, but you were only out a day or 2 days, then they are violating that ordinance. They are violating the law. But if you are sick for 3 days, or if you're sick for 4 days, that's where they can start asking for a doctor's note. And some COVID-19 vaccination rates. The employer cannot require you to get vaccinated outside of work hours. So like some workplaces are requiring that their workers get vaccinated. They, if you have to take work time to go get vaccinated, that you're protected. Like they can't say that you have to go on your off time. And if your appointment is during the workday, you can be compensated up to 4 hours. And if the employer does not require you to be vaccinated, but you still want to go and get vaccinated during work hours, you can use paid sick leave if it is available to you.
If I may interject here, and I already know the answer to the question, but I just want to flag it for our viewers. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but none of this is applicable to temp workers. They don't have any of these benefits.
So that's where it's difficult, because if you haven't been at the same place for 6 months, then you don't necessarily have the rights, because the law does allow the employer to require like 6 months. But there are, from my understanding, there are some temp workers who are still like labeled as temp workers, but have been at the same client company for more than like 6 months.
Okay, permatemps. Okay, all right, not a good thing, permatemping, but we'll table that discussion for another day. Okay, so that's good to know that some might be able to take advantage of this. Thank you.
Yes. So it's just the conditions that like you have to qualify for in order for the law to apply is what makes it difficult, because yeah, for the most part, temp workers aren't at the same place, for 6 months at a time.
Right, thank you.
Mhm. All right. So if there are any issues and you have to report violations against these ordinances, though regarding just the Chicago ordinances, you can call 311. Like if you can't remember, if you're not able to find the number that I had in the previous slide, or if you just are out and about and you figure out like, oh, this is, I think this has happened to me, I'm going to go ahead and like try and report it now. You can call 311 and they'll put you in touch with the Chicago Office of Labor Standards. And you can call for violations regarding Cook County ordinances. You can call the Cook County Commission on Human Rights, and that's 312-603-1100. And other options, which you've learned about TWUAP and WWJ, if you weren't familiar with them before, and also Raise the Floor Alliance. But you can talk to a worker center about how to organize your workplace if it's something that you think that you want to do and that you'd be able to do at your workplace. You can get that support from our organizations, and you can also file a lawsuit in state court or with the Office of Labor Standards or with the Cook County Commission on Human Rights. You don't necessarily need an attorney for these. Like a lot of people want an attorney because they think it'll be easier, but you can also just go ahead and file some of these claims on your own. And I believe like WWJ can sometimes assist with some of these. And that way, if it is like a time sensitive matter, you can start protecting your rights, even if you're still like looking for an attorney. All right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing those slides and providing all of that information. I just wanted to really quickly touch on some of the last things that you said. So yes, Warehouse Workers for Justice does have a legal team where we have legal, I don't know their titles. Are they legal organizers, Bobby? Anyway, we have staff that can help make referrals if you find yourself in a situation where you think you may or may not need legal assistance. We're happy to do an intake process, or those of us on our team who work in that area are happy to do an intake process and make referrals when applicable. So, don't talk yourself out of it. Just ask the questions. An attorney is going to look at your situation, look at all the information provided, and make a determination based upon that. So you never know, you might actually have a case. So don't knock yourself out of the running. Nothing beats a failure but a try. So I'm going to take a look at the page to see if we have any more questions, and it looks like we don't. So before we go, I do want to give Bobby an opportunity to provide some more information about the upcoming vaccine events through our partnership with the Cook County Department of Public Health.
Thank you, Janelle. I just wanted to also add, if you need transportation to any of these vaccine events or to any vaccine event ever, transportation can be provided. Please feel free to reach out to us if you need transportation. That way we can set you up a ride there and back. And I also want to mention that we're giving out free KN95s and at home COVID tests. So, we got to stay safe during these trying times out here. So please feel free to reach out to us for some of this PPE. Take the test, Find out if you have COVID, stay safe. You gotta stay safe during these trying times. We're losing way too many people right now, and we don't need to lose anymore. So please stay as safe as possible.
Thank you, Bobby. And again, if you'd like more information about those upcoming events, you can visit either our website, Warehouse Workers for Justice, www.4j.org, or the Temp Worker Union Alliance Project TWUAP's website, twuap.org. And then last but not least, our partners at CCDPH, their website, let me pull it up, here we go, is cookcountypublichealth.org. And if you're specifically looking for the upcoming vaccine events, it's cookcountypublichealth.org/calendar. So all of those upcoming vaccine events where you can, again, either get vaccinated against COVID-19, get your booster shot, flu shot, or if you just want more information about what options are available to you in close proximity to you at your convenience, feel free to visit them and take advantage of the calendar that they've set up for the various communities in suburban Cook County. Any final thoughts before we go? Okay, well, without further ado, we're going to wrap up, but I also want to remind you that we are continuing this Know Your Rights workshop series. So the next installment is actually going to be on Wednesday, February 9th during the lunch hour at 12 p.m. With attorney Mark Brahanu, who is also with the Raise the Floor Alliance legal team. And of course, we will have attorney Ada back again as her schedule permits. So please feel free to connect with us on social media at the Warehouse Workers for Justice Facebook page, the TWUAP Temp Worker Union Alliance Project Facebook page, and make sure that you are keeping in tune with upcoming events, as again, we're striving to get this information to you guys and make sure that resources are readily available. Also, if you're catching this on the replay, feel free to leave a comment. We will get a notification and someone on staff will try and get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you for those of you who tuned in, who watched with us tonight. Thank you to our special guest, attorney Ada. Thank you, Bobby, for holding it down with me. And we are signing up. Everyone be safe, be well, and have a good evening.